In a quiet Sunday school classroom, sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting vibrant colors on the worn wooden desks. The air was filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee, mingling with the crisp pages of well-loved Bibles. Today's lesson promised to be an unusual one, as the teacher, Mrs. Thompson, had decided to explore the connections between Pontius Pilate and the concept of pilots in aviation. Mrs. Thompson began by introducing Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor known for his role in the trial of Jesus Christ. She recounted the pivotal moments leading to the crucifixion, emphasizing key biblical verses that illustrated Pilate's struggle. "What is truth?" he famously asked, a question that echoed through the ages, revealing the weight of his decision to sentence an innocent man to death. Pilate's name, she explained, became synonymous with moral ambiguity, a reminder of the choices we face and the consequences that follow. As the children listened intently, Mrs. Thompson drew a parallel to pilots in aviation, those who navigate the skies, guiding their passengers to safety. Just as Pilate had a role in a monumental moment in history, pilots hold a significant position in our modern world, steering us through journeys both literal and metaphorical. She spoke of how pilots are entrusted with lives, much like Pilate was entrusted with the fate of Jesus, a connection that seemed both profound and unsettling. Back in those days, before the invention of the plane took off, ship captains were known as pilots. Pontius Pilate was known as such because he hailed from the kingdom of Pontus, which is a landlocked region in northern Turkey. Being landlocked certainly meant that he didn't get much work driving his boat, so it naturally put a chip on his shoulder. 10. Be it known unto you all, and to all the people of Israel, that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom yet crucified, whom God raised from the dead, even by him doth this man stand here before you whole. The verses provided are thematically linked, focusing on the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and its aftermath in early Christian testimony. Below is a brief overview of each verse's context within its chapter. Matthew 27:26. This verse is part of the narrative describing Pilate's decision to release Barabbas and sentence Jesus to crucifixion, following the crowd's demand. The surrounding verses, Matthew 27:25-30, detail the mocking and preparation for crucifixion, providing context for the political and social pressures on Pilate. Mark 15:15. Similar to Matthew, this verse occurs within Mark's account of Jesus' trial before Pilate, emphasizing Pilate's willingness to appease the crowd. The context, Mark 15:14-16, includes the crowd's insistence and the soldiers' actions, highlighting the tension between Roman authority and Jewish leaders. John 19:16. Found in John's detailed account of Jesus' passion, this verse marks the moment Jesus is handed over for crucifixion. The surrounding verses, John 19:15-17, describe Pilate's final interaction with the crowd and Jesus carrying his cross, offering insight into the legal and religious dynamics. Acts 4:10. This verse is part of Peter's bold speech before the Sanhedrin, attributing a healing miracle to Jesus, whom they crucified but whom God raised. The context, Acts 4:9-12, includes the examination of Peter and John, showcasing early Christian boldness and the theological claim of Jesus' resurrection. The discussion shifted to the idea of faith and tradition, particularly how these themes manifest in the context of traveling to visit family. When we board a plane, we place our trust in the pilot, much like the early Christians placed their faith in Jesus, she said. We rely on their expertise to guide us safely home. The children nodded, some murmuring about their own experiences flying to see grandparents or cousins, the excitement of reunions mingling with the anxiety of travel. Mrs. Thompson then posed a thought-provoking question. What if we consider Jesus as a metaphorical pilot? He navigates the storms of our lives, guiding us through trials and tribulations. She referenced biblical verses that spoke of Jesus as a shepherd, a leader who cares for his flock. In John 10:11, he says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Just as a pilot must make decisions for the safety of those on board, Jesus made the ultimate sacrifice for humanity. The room grew quiet as the children contemplated this connection. Mrs. Thompson encouraged them to think about the significance of names, roles, and symbols in both religious and historical contexts. Pilate, a name that carries weight in history, and Pilate, a name that signifies guidance and safety. Both are reminders of the choices we make and the paths we take. She highlighted how names can shape our understanding of faith and tradition, inviting the children to reflect on their own names and the legacies they might carry. As the lesson progressed, Mrs. Thompson acknowledged the varying interpretations of these themes. It's important to explore different biblical translations and commentaries, she urged. Each perspective can deepen our understanding, much like how different pilots might have unique flight paths, but ultimately lead us to the same destination. She encouraged the children to ask questions, to seek deeper truths, and to recognize that faith is often a journey, not a destination. Pontius Pilate and Herod Antipas, as well as Pilate's later fate, are topics of interest in both historical and theological discussions. Role of Herod Antipas. In the Gospels, particularly in the account of Jesus' trial found in Luke 23, it's noted that Pilate sent Jesus to Herod Antipas, who was the tetrarch, ruler of Galilee. Herod had jurisdiction over Galilee and had some interest in Jesus due to his reputation. However, Herod did not find Jesus guilty and sent him back to Pilate. This interaction might highlight the complexities of governance in Judea during that era and the relationship between local Jewish authorities and Roman rulers. Pilate as a Christian. There are various traditions and apocryphal texts that suggest Pilate may have embraced Christianity after the crucifixion of Jesus. However, these claims are not widely supported by early historical evidence and come from later Christian writings that seek to portray Pilate in a more favorable or sympathetic light. Some Christian legends and writings, such as the Acts of Pilate, an apocryphal text, depict Pilate as being troubled by the trial and later converting to Christianity. These accounts appear to emerge in the centuries following the events of the New Testament. Historical context. Historically, Pilate is often characterized as a pragmatic Roman governor more concerned with maintaining order and his position than with the religious implications of his actions. His decision to crucify Jesus is generally viewed as politically motivated, seeking to avert unrest in Jerusalem during a time of heightened tension. In summary, while Herod Antipas played a role in the trial of Jesus, the assertion that Pilate became a Christian is largely derived from later traditions rather than direct historical evidence. The complexities and interactions between Roman and Jewish authorities at the time of Jesus' trial continue to be subjects of interest and interpretation in both scholarly and religious discussions. In closing, Mrs. Thompson invited the children to think about their own lives. As we navigate our paths, let us remember the lessons of Pilate and the pilots who guide us. May we seek divine guidance in our decisions, trusting in the ultimate pilot who leads us home. The lesson ended, but the reflections lingered, weaving a tapestry of faith, tradition, and the shared human experience of seeking direction amid uncertainty. The children left the classroom, inspired to explore the skies of their own lives, guided by the wisdom of the past and the promise of the future.